Thomas had a dream, a vivid, powerful dream that left his heart pounding even after he woke up. In the dream, he stood in a vast field bathed in golden light. Everything was peaceful, silent, and still. Then he heard a voice, gentle, deep, and full of warmth.
Thomas,
The voice said,
you have called out to me for years. You have prayed, begged, even doubted. Tomorrow, I will come to visit you.
Thomas fell to his knees.
Really? You mean it? You're finally coming?
Yes,
The voice replied.
be ready.
When Thomas awoke, the words still echoed in his ears.
Tomorrow, I will come to visit you.
He leapt out of bed with a joy he hadn't felt in years. God the Almighty was coming to his house. He immediately began preparing. He shaved, put on his best suit, and tidied every corner of his home. He laid out the finest plates, polished the silverware, and lit candles for a warm, welcoming glow. Then he sat down and waited. Hours passed. Morning turned into afternoon. Thomas kept checking the clock. Any moment now, he thought. Any moment, and God would knock on his door. Then a knock. Thomas jumped up, straightened his suit, took a deep breath, and opened the door with reverence in his heart. But it wasn't who he expected. A man stood there disheveled, sweating, and clearly in a rush.
Hey, sorry to bother you.
He began.
I'm your new neighbor. Movers just dropped off my furniture on the curb, but I have to pick up my daughter from her new school. It's her first day, and she'll be really scared if I'm late. Could you please just watch the furniture for a few minutes? I'll be right back.
Thomas stared at him, dumbfounded.
What? No. I can't help you. Today's a very important day for me. I have no time to babysit your things.
But it's just a few minutes.
The neighbor pleaded.
My daughter is only 7. I promised I'd be there when school ends.
Thomas snapped.
Then you should have planned better. You can't expect others to fix your mess. Go deal with your problems, I'm busy.
And with that, he slammed the door. From the window, Thomas watched as the man reluctantly drove away. Moments later, a group of young men passed by. They noticed the unattended furniture, laughed, and began dragging it away. What they didn't steal, they broke. Thomas sighed.
Not my problem.
He muttered.
God is coming today. I can't be distracted.
Late afternoon turned into evening. Still, God hadn't arrived. Thomas started to worry. Maybe he should prepare something to eat? After all, it wouldn't be right to greet the Almighty without offering him anything. He grabbed his car keys and drove to the nearby store. As he stepped out of his car in the parking lot, a young girl, maybe 16, ran up to him in tears.
Please, sir, can you help me?
She cried.
I got on the wrong bus and ended up here. I don't know this area and I can't find my way home.
Thomas looked at her suspiciously.
Can't you just use your phone to check where you are?
I left my phone at home.
She said, wiping her face.
Can I use yours just for a minute? I'll call my mom or look at the map.
Thomas narrowed his eyes.
Oh, I see what this is. You're trying to steal my phone, aren't you? That's what this is about.
No, I promise. I'm just scared and lost.
Then go to the police.
Thomas snapped.
That's what they're there for. I pay taxes so they can deal with this kind of nonsense. Not me.
He brushed past her and walked into the store, leaving the girl standing in the parking lot, sobbing quietly. Inside the store, Thomas calmed himself down. He reminded himself that this was a sacred day. He picked out a cake, a bottle of wine, and some fresh fruit. After all, when God arrived, everything had to be perfect. As he reached for a bunch of grapes, an elderly man beside him did the same. Their eyes met, and the old man smiled kindly.
Good evening.
The man said.
Beautiful day, isn't it?
Thomas smiled back.
Yes. Actually, it's a very special day. The most important day of my life.
The old man chuckled.
Then may it be full of blessings.
Thomas nodded and turned back to his shopping. As he glanced over his shoulder, he saw the old man walking away, then suddenly dropping a few bills from his wallet without noticing. Thomas watched silently. A voice in his mind whispered,
Tell him. Help him.
But another voice answered,
Why? It's not my job to babysit the world. People need to be responsible. I don't need to step in every time someone makes a mistake.
He turned away, shaking his head.
This is exactly why God chose me.
He muttered.
I'm strong, independent. I don't go around crying for help. That's why I'm worthy.
He paid for the items and left. Back home, Thomas set the table with great care. Candles flickered gently. The wine was poured. The cake sliced. Everything was perfect. He sat down and waited. Minutes passed, then hours. Night fell, and still no one came. He stared at the door, then the clock, then back to the door. Midnight struck. His heart sank. He waited a bit longer, hoping, praying, but no knock came. Eventually, exhausted and disappointed, he went to bed. That night, he dreamed again. This time, he stood in the same golden field, and once again he heard the voice.
Thomas.
It said softly. He looked up, hurt and angry.
You lied to me! You promised you would come! I waited all day, and you never showed up!
The voice was quiet.
But I did come.
Thomas frowned.
No, you didn't.
I came to you as your neighbor asking for help to protect what he loved. I came to you as a frightened girl needing kindness and safety. I came to you as an old man offering you peace and dropping what little he had. Each time, you turned me away.
Thomas fell to his knees. Tears filled his eyes.
I didn't know. I thought you would come in glory. As God.
The voice was gentle.
I did come as God, just not the way you expected.
Thomas woke up with tears on his cheeks. The dream felt more real than anything he had ever experienced. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring into the darkness, heart heavy with shame. He had missed it. He had prayed, prepared, dressed, and waited. And yet, when God came to him not in glory, but in need, had turned him away again and again. He realized something that night. He had created an image of God in his mind, majestic, dramatic, powerful. But he had forgotten the most important truth, that God often comes to us in humility, in disguise, through the people we ignore, the ones we judge, the ones we deem unworthy of our time. And maybe the true test of faith isn't in how well we prepare for a divine moment, but in how we treat the people around us every day. From that day forward, Thomas was different. He still prayed, still believed, but now he watched more closely, not for miracles in the sky, but for the quiet knock at the door, the lost soul in the parking lot, the smile of a stranger in the grocery store. He finally understood. Sometimes, God doesn't come the way we expect. Sometimes, He comes the way we need.